Aloha, everyone. I hope you're having and had a great Monday. Anyway, the stock market, same old, same old. The goal of this video is not to bore the shit out of you or waste your time, so we'll just go ahead and just show you the numbers. S&P 500 up 0.20%, New York Stock Exchange up 0.33%, the Nasdaq up 0.36%, and the Russell 2000 up 0.28%. All indexes hit new highs. The Nasdaq obviously is only hitting 13-year highs. The level 5,000 is the all-time high. That's pretty. It's going to be hard to ever get back up there anytime soon, I'm feeling, because that was such a bubble economy for that index back then. But overall, new highs, new high grounds. We keep hitting them on low volume. That means that there isn't a whole lot of demand to buy shares hugely up here, but at the same time, there's no sellers. And so whenever you're hitting new highs each and every day with no sellers above, my advice is to let that trend play out until it doesn't work anymore. And right now it's still working. And as you can see, momentum is still very strong. I mean, just looking down here at these insane MACD lines, we can see that we're now finally overbought on a lot of these indexes, so maybe some pulling back and backing and filling is about ready to start. And you would think so, especially with the Russell 2000 now putting in a former NASDAQ move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 out of the past 13 sessions. This index has finished higher. The NASDAQ has been up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 of the past 19 sessions. So overall, you would think that a rest would be in order. The 200-day moving average and price is so far extended, but we shall see. The only interesting move off the lows out there in the market is the gold mining stocks. I'm not necessarily impressed with gold off the lows necessarily, even though it is a nice rally. But the chances of it continuing is pretty strong. GDXJ retook the 50-day moving average. GDX took out the 50-day moving average. And NUGT is right on the doorstep of the 50-day moving average. On top of that, there were many gold stocks like RIC and IAG I just threw up that are also showing the exact same pattern that NUGT and GDX are showing. So keep an eye on that. If gold stocks start to rally, I would think that we might be near the end of the uptrend on a short-term basis. However, at the same time, this could be an inflationary-based rally, and gold could continue to go higher along with gold stocks while the market moves up and the dollar moves down. So it's just something to keep an eye on. We do have 3 sells tonight, 25% sells. MHGC is closing below 746, where the partial sell was going to be initiated, even if it didn't close below the 50-day moving average. But with the close below the 50-day moving average, it is confirmed. That is a 25% sell. Hopefully it will bounce here and remove and continue to go back higher. GLL going to the NUGT, GLD, and GDX charts. Closing below the 50-day moving average gives it its first 50-day moving average break since we went long on February 14th. So that is a 25% sell. And at the same time, LOCK, the stock that we were loading up on following this move here and that move here and this breakout, is just not performing like it should. And that is another 25% sell. If it closes below the low of day tomorrow, it will be another sell. And more than likely, that will be a 50%er. And then we'll see how it acts. But from the very first initial long signal, we still have a 7% gain. And then also on watch, Chewy closed below the 50-day moving average again. However, it had a nice intraday tail and closed pretty close to the 35.80 intraday low a day level yesterday, so 35.75 with an intraday tail. We'll go ahead and give it a little bit more room to bounce. If it closes below the low a day of 25.26 tomorrow, you can be sure that's going to be a 50% sell. Also, UEIC has closed below the 10-day moving average on multiple occasions now on heavy volume. However, since that first closed below the 50-day moving average, it came back to have a tail. So as you can see, 30.13 or 30.10 was the low a day there. A close at 30.10 prevented it from being a sell here. And now the 29.79 level comes into play. And as you can see, we're still above the 29.79 level with a 30 price tag. However, another down session tomorrow will put it below the 20-day moving average, and that will be a 25 to 33% sell, possibly 33%, because we've already got some heavy distribution, minor kind, line, but still distribution below the 10-day moving average. So keep an eye on UISC, and also SBGI closing below the 20-day moving average again, closing below the intraday low a day of the day before, but still on below average volume. Both moves below that 20-day moving average, still overall trending up above the 50-day moving average. A close below the 50-day moving average, however, on heavier volume would be another 25% sell. On lower volume, we got to wait till it pierces these support lows before it becomes another sell. And then with all that, I had 3 possible longs. The first long is ACT. Why is it not a long despite that pocket pivot point signal on 50-day moving average? Because earnings are on, let's see, Tuesday, Wednesday, or on Thursday. On Thursday the 25th, ACT reports earnings, and I got to be honest, that's too soon to be taking a position, as the stock might not violate its intraday low a day and get us out before a possible gap lower. If you really believe in this stock, you could straddle or strangle it. I don't think that there's enough possibility of a huge price move to go ahead and do that, so overall I'm going to pass on that. And then a very nice signal tonight that I'm not taking, BBVA. Very large volume move. As you can see what it does, it truncates the rest of this volume, as it's much superior to any previous volume day that we see in this chart going back a year. And BOP moves up, Max Green, money stream leaps. Overall, excellent pattern. However, as you can see here, the volume is not heavier than this down session, which ended up being an intermediate term low, or a short term low here back in August for BBVA. However, you know, it's still a good signal. My biggest issue is it's not like this is a secondary offering and they scooped up the shares, or that there was no news and this huge move happened. UBS, I guess, upgraded it from neutral to buy, so that's the reason for this volume increase. But with the lack of previous green BOP and the overall downtrending nature, as you can see here, we have, well, let me just draw this line here, lower highs connecting like this area right through here, and then also still overall lower lows connecting through this area here. If the chart pattern was reversed and those 2 red lines that you see were trending higher, and then we had a day like today, I would be more inclined to go ahead and take a 2% position in this in the risk account, 0% obviously in the non-risk account, because it hasn't reported sales totals the past 3 quarters, and even though it has a 5% dividend and is earning money, it's not, you know, a real canceling quality stock. So a move with BOP and volume like this without previous accumulation or more green BOP, or an overall uptrending structure since the beginning of January, is going to prevent it from being a long. However, if you believe that this is definitely a pivotal point move, which it definitely looks like it, you are more than welcome to take a position. I will be passing. The only position I will be taking tonight is in INVN. INVN is making a heavier above average volume move off the 10-day moving average, producing a pocket pivot point buy signal. Has decent green BOP, could build on that overall if it wants to. But the most important part is, since the May lows, it has trended higher nicely on very, very heavy accumulation. And every time it pulls back, here, lower volume, here, lower volume, here, lower volume, and kind of going sideways here. Only a couple days of above average volume on down sessions, and one of them has a big not a big intraday reversal, but an intraday reversal, so it isn't that bad. But the pocket pivot point signal with green BOP and the nice intraday reversal looks good for this stock to continue its uptrend. Earnings are on the 30th, so that's why, you know, we have more than 5 days, so we can give ourselves enough time. If this stock closes below 1540, you can start cutting your losses, and this 15 level is going to be my final level. If the day before earnings comes and it's like right around $15, I might go ahead and pare some back, as I'm expecting, based on this technical pattern, for this stock to either work right away or base out sideways in between 16 and 1550. I should not see it violate 1540. Have a great Tuesday, everyone.